When it comes to my does, I have never had a problem with them accepting an extra baby if they already have a litter. For instance, if I didn't think one could handle the amount of baby she had, I would throw an extra 1 or 2 in here with Penguin. With that being said, what I do worry about when it comes to foster mothers is if they can produce the amount of milk to support all the kits that they have, be it the ones that they have naturally or as fosters. So for instance, right now I have 2 litters equating to 18 kits. If one of the moms would die, what I would do is I would take them, leave them in their separate boxes, and rotate them out with the mom that was still alive. And then I would also take Solstice 2 times a day to feed each of the litters. Solstice is our mama that currently has a week of 5-week-old kits. And between the 2 surviving moms, in theory, they should be able to take care of the 18 newborn kits and the 5-week-old kits. But I know they could take care of them milk-wise because I've had litters with both of them before and I know what they can handle size-wise. Now, if I had another mother, such as Sadie, who was the extra, I would be worried about milk production because Sadie doesn't produce more than enough milk for 4 or 5 kits. She's a very good mother, but she always has very small litters that she supports. But overall, when it comes down to our rabbits, they're really good foster moms in that they're not aggressive and we don't have problems. Penguin here has always been exceptional about taking extras. Same with one. This is Butcher P.S. Charlie 23, and she is a little broken caster doe. She is not going to be showable because she doesn't have a nose marking, which makes her an automatic disqualification. And on top of that, if we get her set up, she's a little pinched in the hind quarter, and if you look, her high point's a little too far forward from her hips. I also don't like, she's a bit long in the shoulder, and part of that might be that with this high point, it's throwing off her body in general. But overall, she's filling out pretty nice. She's a bit of a chunky girl when it comes to mini Rex at 12 weeks. I will say I really like this round of casters in that they have a really nice rufous on the very top of their fur, giving them a darker appearance than Sadie, and she has really nice ring definition. But overall, not going to fit our program, so we aren't going to keep her. This was the doe that I showed in the video this comment is talking about, and they're asking, how can I tell she's pinched? So the first thing we're going to look at is how the feet are positioned. If you look at this rabbit and her toes, they're cow-hocked, meaning her toes are pointing outwards. Same on this side too, you can see how her toes are slightly pointed outwards. Now that pointing outwards, both this way and this way, create the pinch right in through here because of the way the hips are sitting. Now, if we compare that to Miss Lulu here, as you can see, her toes are pointing straight and not out, so she's not cow-hocked. And if you look at her hind quarter here, how it is just smooth from side to side with no pinching right here. Sometimes it's easier to tell whether a rabbit is cow-hocked or not when you flip them over and look at their feet. If you look at this doe, we see that V of the toes pointing outwards, which is going to give us the idea of when we do flip her over and pose her, naturally her feet are going to come out at that angle, causing that pinch in the hindquarters. Now compared to Miss Lulu on her back, how her toes are pointing forward instead of going out to the side. Those forward toes give us a more rounded hip on the back end here. I thankfully had an amazing mentor when it came to raising the quail, and she was very thorough in covering all of the things I would need to get started. I will, though, share my favorite pieces of advice when it comes to these little dodo brains. The first thing is these guys are idiots. More so than any chicken I have owned. If there is something they can get hurt on or off themselves with, they will do it. For the babies, you're going to want to put little pebbles or marbles or stones in their water so that they don't drown themselves. They will climb into the upright feeders and suffocate themselves as chicks if they can figure it out. They need under 2 foot of headspace or up to 6 feet of headspace. the in-between areas of space, make it to where they will jump up and break their necks. Instead of giving them dry feed when they're first hatch, wet the feed down a little bit so that it's almost like a soup. It really helps with them gaining weight and staying hydrated. These guys will jump out of their pens into the open mouth of a husky. A great ratio is 1 male to 5 females. Make sure your adults have food and water at all times. That way they're less likely to scalp each other. Double, triple, and quadruple check whether you have hens or roosters as they start getting to that age. Sometimes I swear these guys are like clownfish. You'll think you'll have a hen and all of a sudden it turns into a rooster. And then your ratios are off and they start fighting. Switch your roosters out about every 6 months. This helps with fertility and genetics. And then you're going to want to switch your hens out around every 18 months. Supplemental light in the winter is a godsend if you want these to keep laying year-round. And then these guys also do really well in the cold, surprisingly. You just want to be very careful in the winter with the babies, acclimating them from inside to outside. And the final piece of advice that I can give you, collect all the colors. It's like having Pokemon. You gotta collect them all. For about the past couple of weeks, about this time every day, I've been posting a rabbit out of the barn just to kind of give you an idea of what I have, both keeping and breeding stock and cull stock. I'm gonna have to put that series on hold for at least 40 days. I made a comment on somebody's chicken video where they had to put a bunch of chickens in quarantine and they lost a good chunk of their flock. And their response to me was, have you ever had to deal with this? And I said, thankfully, no. I have never had to deal with something that serious. And I think I'm going to be eating my words. Last night around 7 o'clock, I came out to the rabbitry to pull out one of my rabbits to do her nails and to do a health check and to get a good weight on her because she's close to breeding age. And I wanted to breed her within the next couple of months. When I flipped her over, she had a bloody nose. Now, before we get into that whole thing, anyone who raises rabbits knows that that's not good. And it is a huge sign for RHVD2. Thankfully, in a county where there haven't been any reported active cases, but brought up by one of my vet friends, there's probably no active cases reported because we are in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. And being in the middle of nowhere, it could mean we have active wild cases that no one has been around to see or report. And even with, you know, great biosecurity, with all the scavengers we have up here, it could be that something got drug in on a pair of boots. So we are going into full quarantine and lockdown. What that means is, this is my rabbit barn right now. All of the rabbits are out, kept on different sections of the property. In the garage, I have the highest likelihood of carriers, including what would be our outbreak case. And even then, they're separated enough to where if only the outbreak case happened, we're good. I took everything that was around that animal, threw it into the garage. Everything else has been separated onto different parts of the property in groups of most to least affected. So the hope is to be able to save as much of my livestock as possible. Now, there's no guarantee that this is actually RHVD2. It could be a broken blood vessel. It could be that, you know, something else, but I'm not taking any chances. For the next 40 days, we are gonna wait and see. But if it is what I fear most, I have a chance right now of losing every single mini Rexto except for one, all of my standard Rextos, and my entire line of champagnes. And that's not good. That's not good at all. So I'm freaking out, just a smidgen. So not really. Made a couple of phone calls today, talked to some people, and basically we're just playing the hurry and wait game. Meaning I'm kind of waiting to see what happens before they're really going to get involved. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to hold tight, and if Lizzie does end up dying, we are to double bag her, put her in the fridge, the state vet will come out, take her, and then they'll do a necropsy and a tissue test. That tissue test will be able to tell us if it's RHVD2 or something else. Now, in a lot of places it takes 3 days to get a test back. But there are a lot of places now that are doing rapid testing where you can get that answer in a couple of hours. but I kind of have to wait for a carcass. And we can't just cull the animal out, we kind of have to wait for the disease to take its course so that the numbers are high enough for it to register on a test. Or at least that's what I've been told. But if nothing happens when we get to day 7, we're probably in the clear. And that's because apparently when a rabbit shows symptoms, it will die within the next 4 to 6 days. So if we get to day 7, we should be good. With that being said, even if everything makes it past that point, everyone's staying where they are in quarantine for the full 40 days. Because we're just not risking it. Now, this is just the case for my state. If you suspect an RHVD2 case in your area, be it from the wild population or a domestic population, you need to call the state vet and see what they recommend. Because each state is different and has different rules, regulations, and tasks of what they want to do. And then each state vet is going to have a plan for what to do if you do have an active case. Some will go through and euthanize your entire stock. Others will do a quarantine regimen with you. And then others might do something different. It's specific by the state what they want to do. But the first step is getting that test after something dies. So for now, we just kind of wait. When it comes to RHVD2 or any suspected cases of RHVD2 when butchering out your rabbits, you don't want to eat it. Basically, you want to go through a safe disposal method. The AG department subscribes to either burying double-bagged 6 foot under away from a water source, double bagging for disposal in a landfill, or burning it. With that being said, for our program, I've halted all butchering. One, in case we do have an outbreak, but then also if we only have an outbreak in a certain amount of rabbits, I can keep my grow outs and kind of try to restock my program with them. So for instance, my butcher barn has 2 silver foxes and 4 standard Rex grow outs, completely away from the barn where we had our rabbit with the bloody nose. In that barn though, away from the contamination area, because it's more than 10 foot away, I have grow outs for silver fox, I have a Californian grow out, I have mini Rex grow outs, I have Rex grow outs, in the hope that I could restock what I lost if we caught it on time. So for the next 40 days, we're just kind of chilling on the butchering. Because right now we're just kind of waiting and seeing what's going to happen, and then we'll move on to damage control. When it comes to preventing RHVD2, the biggest thing that you can do to prevent it is to ensure that you have good biosecurity. Don't put your rabbits on the ground, make sure you're keeping them up above it. Don't let anyone that you don't know into your rabbitry and limit the amount of people in and out of your rabbitry. Have shoes that are easy to clean that you only have in your rabbitry. Or you can do like I'm doing right now, and you can have a vat of bleach water that you step into and you stand in for a little while before going into your rabbitry so that you're separating the germs from the outside into the inside of the rabbitry. If you get a new rabbit onto the property, make sure you are properly quarantining it. And limit the amount of vectors on the property. Of course, the wild rabbit population carries this disease, but scavengers can also spread it. Birds of prey, raccoons, dogs, cats, anything that is willing to eat a dead carcass. The problem with this is that because it is so prevalent and it is so contagious and the disease stays in the meat of the animal for a very, very long time, or can stay on things like cages, hay, and toys for a very, very long time, you can do everything right and something can still happen. So if you do suspect that one of your rabbits has RHVD2, you want to take it and every rabbit around it and put them into quarantine. That means beside, below, in front of, anything within a sneezing and breathing range. And then you're going to just bleach the hell out of everything. And I do mean everything. Walls, floors, racks, cages, bottles, bowls, toys. And also mitigate your other risks. RHVD2 can also be on hay. So if you're in an area with a wild population outbreak, it might be worth thinking about that hay you're giving your rabbits and cut that back or cut it out altogether, depending on the amount of wild cases that are in your area. But yeah, this is like a scary thing. It's not fun, but everyone in quarantine, including our outbreak case, is doing fine in the garage. They're all eating and drinking and doing what they normally do. And I swear to you, if Lizzie is just a klutz and got a bloody nose from something else, such as slamming her face in the cage or bursting a blood vessel, I am renaming her to Lucifer. But I prefer that over the alternative. I was wondering when this was going to come up, to be honest, because this is something that is talked a lot about within the rabbit community, both on the pet side and on the meat side. One of the largest problems we are seeing when it comes to RHVD2, other than the fact that it's spreading like wildfire, is the fact that we do not have ready access to vaccinations. Our last vaccine clinic was in March, and only my senior breeder does at the time were able to get their first round of vaccinations in a vaccine that is a series of 2. And where I'm from, you cannot give vaccines for RHVD2 to stock that aren't a senior. Most of the time, they're dictating that to be under the age of 6 months. I have a lot of stock that is under the age of 6 months, and that's because we raise meat. Most of our stock is butchered out by about 12 weeks on average. There are no answers when the next RHVD2 vaccine clinic will be close to our area. Right now we have a shortage on vaccines, and it's a little irritating because I do have does that I want to get their second round or even their first round. I've even tried ordering it in bulk from our vets, and they don't have access to it either. That's in our area. I've talked to a friend who she looked to see if they could get it in stock at her clinic, and they also couldn't. And what the AG recommends is to talk to your vet to try to get it in stock, but there's not much you can do when no one can get it in stock. And it might sound like I'm laughing, but that is just my nervousness taking over, because I would love to vaccinate all of my breeders at least, especially the ones that I take to show. But right now we just don't have access to that. So the only thing we can do until the next vaccine clinic is to mitigate those problems. So we make sure we have proper biosecurity, we make sure we have quarantines in place, we make sure we're sanitizing everything, and that we are separating our rabbits we take from show for a long enough period to make sure that they don't have symptoms. Besides that, we just kind of wait and see what happens. I'm just hoping we'll have another clinic here before winter sets in. If we can get a clinic before winter hits, I can finish out my rounds of vaccinations on my does that have already been vaccinated once, and I can get started with my other animals that haven't gotten their vaccinations yet because they weren't of age when the first vaccination circuit came around. Either way, all of this is just super frustrating. Let's talk proper diet when it comes to raising rabbits. When it comes to raising rabbits, the only thing you truly need is a complete pellet. We feed at a 1/4 cup per pound. I have friends though that prefer to do it by weight, and they do 1 ounce of feed per pound. But that's kind of the baseline that we do when it comes to feeding our rabbits. With that being said, we adjust feed as needed when we get our monthly weights to make sure that our animals are gaining, losing, or maintaining weight to what fits their body type and the standard of perfection. With that being said, if you want to give extras on top of the pellets that you are giving, you definitely can, but you do want to be careful with it. Rabbits are prone to things like GI stasis and bloat and other problems that can kill them. When it comes to extras in our feed, for the most part, all we do are rolled oats and black oil sunflower seeds. And that just gives their coat a little extra oomph on the show table and just makes it a wee bit nicer. Definitely not needed. When it comes to the rolled oats, the reason why we use that is it does really well with bringing kits into condition and helps give a little extra fat to moms to produce milk. But again, totally not needed. It's just the extra we put on top. And talking to a friend, I might be adding some dried papaya to my feed coming up here soon. But when you break the ratio down, that's literally grams a day. but it's a really cool study and point when it comes to feed ratio balances to absorption of nutrients. And we can get into that sometime if you want. I can go grab the study and we can look into it because it's super cool. But I digress. Now, every once in a while, we do give hay. With that being said, especially with our grow outs and some of our rabbits that need to keep condition, hay is not the best option for us. And that is because if a rabbit is eating too much hay and not eating enough pellet, they can lose condition, they cannot be getting the essential nutrients out of their complete pellet that they need. And then hay can also harbor other issues. So when it comes to hay, we might give it once a week, and it's just a very small handful. It's more for enrichment purposes than it is for nutritional purposes. Now is the part I normally get yelled at for. Let's talk about salads and greens. When it comes to fresh fruit and veg, it's very rare that we feed it. And when we do feed something fresh, it's normally strawberries about the size of my thumbnail. No more than that. And that is because fruit, veg, gaseous leaf greens can cause a whole host of problems for rabbits. Loose stool, diarrhea, bloat, GI stasis, death. So for us, it's not a great option when we're trying to mitigate our risks. I just wanted to give y'all an update on everything and kind of show you how everyone's doing. But before I do, I just wanted to say thank y'all so very much. When I posted that video yesterday, I didn't expect the amount of support and rallying that I got, and thank you so much. The past couple of days have been just kind of tough mentally, and just dealing with all of this and worried about everyone. It's been a huge strain. And the amount of people I had reaching out in comments and private messages and just offering to be there for me, it really touched me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. But everyone here in quarantine seems to be doing very well. Up top we have Solstice and her kits, including Cookie. We have One and her newest litter, and we have Emma. And then we have Sadie, we have Lulu, we have Moose, and then we have the newly named Lucifer, who is doing absolutely outstanding and is in love with her climate-controlled barn. I'm just going to continue to roast this rabbit. Give her some sick burns! Because we are a couple of days past initial incident and we're acting like nothing ever happened. And that's all fine and cool and everything, but my heart and blood pressure just can't take it. Not only is she eating her food, she is eating more than her normal amount of food. Normally she only eats about half of what I give her. Now she's eating 3/4 to all of it. It's almost like she got exactly what she wanted. And not only that, we don't have any other symptoms. The nosebleed, not there. Is she lethargic? Nope, she is her same peppy self. And she has the absolute audacity to be angry that I am not doing any more than just throwing food in her cage. Because normally when I'm feeding, I get scratches, sometimes I pick up and hold, but I'm not doing that because I'm limiting contact. And she thinks that is the worst atrocity in the world. So yeah, Lizzie's doing really good and everything seems to be fine. We're not out of the woods yet because, 4 to 6 days is normally what we see apparently for the disease to take effect and for something to happen. With that being said, she seems to be doing fine, and I'm very hopeful it is just from a bloody nose.